Hello, my beautiful people. Today we're going to do the cover of my journal. I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do, but I know the topic of the journal, which is going to be my travelers. And it's not like, I think it's more of a dream traveling journal where I want to journal where I want to go, places I want to visit, and maybe even put like budgeting, so where like I can plan a budget so I can make it to that particular place. Anyway, so I want to start with the globe. I want to do a sort of like a half dome 3D globe made out of wire. So I want to start with the circle, and I kind of eyeball the size of what I want the globe to be. And to dome it up, I find this mirror compact that I got at church the other day, and I just break it up apart. Well, I pop it apart. I didn't break it, and I put a wire frame around it. That's where the center pieces are going to be attached to. So I attach everything to this circle, which is sort of like my base or my structure that I later will remove. And I'm also going to attach the mirror, the half of the compact, so that it serves me as a dome. And I start with my wire. So the first wire and this second wire, I really don't know the gauge of them. Or gauge means just the thickness of it. I don't know the thickness of it. I just know that one's thicker than the other. But if you go to Walmart, you can see the differences in gauges. They have a lot in the craft section, and what you could do is just grab one thicker than the other. I don't really think it matters the gauge size at all. What I do is I start with my center from the top to the bottom. I mean, I guess you can start from the side to side too, but in this case, I started from top to bottom, and then I went on. I think I did the first cross, so I did pretty much a cross so that I know um, my basics from where to start in the center. But the second one, the one in the middle, has to be um, sort of like a happy face, because the up and down latitude, what is it, longitude and latitude? I'm not too sure about this, but the ones that go side to side are kind of in like in an angle, and so it gives you that globe or atlas look of the latitudes. And so to make that angle, what I do is I just pull on it, and it kind of like how when you grab the ribbon and you use the scissors and you pull it out. Sometimes, depending on the river material, it'll curl, and that's kind of what I'm doing with my fingers. I'm curling a little bit the wire that goes from side to side, and I attach one side. Once I have that side established, then I kind of know where to cut the other side, and that's what I've been doing. And what you want to do is go around in a circle, go around the thicker wire with the thinner wire, and attach all the latitudes in that form. Once I do all my latitudes, I go to my longitudes, I think. On the one that goes on the center, goes straight up and down, but on the sides, on the left, is gonna curve towards the outside. It's kind of like a parenthesis. So the center one is straight, but all the other ones are facing. The curve is facing away from each other. So it's like a parenthesis, a parenthesis, parenthesis towards the outside. It radiates to the outside, sort of. So it gives it that illusion of a dome or an atlas. And I pretty much do the same thing. I go over. If you're having difficulties spacing them out, what I did in some of them is I put a little bit of tape. I know that um, once I'm done wiring them all, and once I'm done gluing them, then I can remove the tape. But just make sure not to overlap it that much. That doesn't make it that hard for you to remove the tape. And what I did do is the first ones that I did, I put tape on them, so that's my established center. And then the other ones, they were kind of pretty tight, but I sometimes struggled, and you guys will see that I put more tape, so that masking tape, so that I can establish that curve and even space them out very evenly. And it helps a lot because you're not really measuring, you're eyeballing it. And if you're like trying to eyeball it one to the other one, and that one ends up being like really crooked, then all your eyeballs are going to be like crooked, or your measurements that you're eyeballing. I don't know if you know what I mean. So what I did is I try to take my time. I mean, this seems like going super fast, but I'm not. I just I'm fast forwarding the video faster so you guys don't get bored. But in reality, I took my time. I measured it right. I kept on moving it, adjusting it so that my next line that I do is spaced evenly, and I don't have very awkward lines. I mean, they still look awkward. They still look not so 100% even. But if you take your time, you could do it eyeballing it. But if you prefer, you can measure it. I wouldn't know how to do it. Measuring it, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but I'm sure you can look at an atlas and figure out the measurement of each of them. Then I use welded like a weld crazy glue thing that I got at Home Depot, and I think that any kind of crazy glue or any weld bond um, glue will glue it, just as long as it keeps it where it doesn't need to be glued. It's just as long as it doesn't move or shift on you when you're taking it off and put it on your journal, or when you're using it and trying to scrapbook with it. And I have to apologize to get off my screen a lot. I had not realized the camera was like away from me a lot. And when you're dealing with like a little wire that you're trying to wrap around another wire, I kind of have to like get really close to it. And I noticed that I get a lot of out of frame. And I will get better at this. I'm working on it. These are like my first times I you know record myself doing, so I get lost in what I'm doing rather than thinking I have an audience or I have a camera. It's like when you're driving and somebody's following you, you forget you're driving with somebody following you. You just kind of go and drive to your destination. You're concentrated on your driving or your destination, that you're getting there on time, maybe trying to remember. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to drive and I forget you guys are following. Um, so my next step is I grab a candy wrapper, one of those delicious chocolates that my husband loves, and I keep a lot of candy wrappers that I like the wrappers too. And in this case, I use the candy wrapper to cut out the continents. And in reality, I'm totally eyeballing it, and I'm wrinkling it. I'm putting foamy pieces of little foamy on there so that it attaches better, and I also want to pop it out a little bit more, and I don't want to show the lines or the wires, the longitudes and latitudes on the actual continent. So I'm trying to space them out so that eventually doesn't get pressed onto the candy wrapper. And what I'm doing is here is, since I cut the continents by hand and I'm kind of eyeballing it, I'm just adding little pieces to make it those shapes that needs to happen. I'm adding the United States, making it look more like United States, and you'll see me adding and subtracting little pieces of the continents. I think that the best thing would have been if I sat down and you know um, drew it on a piece of paper and kind of cut out my templates, then go on my candy wrapper and cut it out, and cut it out that way. But I don't play that way. I eyeball things a lot, as you guys will see it. I think it's part of the creative art, creative part of it. It's just I enjoy eyeballing it, and I enjoy when it comes out right. And when it doesn't, I kind of enjoy finding out how to fix it, and the whole dilemma, the investigation part of how to fix the problem you did, or how to make it look right. And I like trying different ways. It probably would be smart of me to make a template and not make a mess out of things. My next step is to make a frame. I want to make it I want to sort of frame the globe or the map, um, because it's a little fragile. So I want to make a frame for it. So I gotta, since I was planning on using the remaining part of the frame when I first cut the circle for the globe. But I noticed that because I put the wire outside of the circle, then it became a little too big, and I had to make a newer one. So what I did is I grabbed that circle, and then I added by hand a little bit, like a quarter of an inch, and went around it and kind of sketched it out. In my eyes, they don't have to be perfect. In your eyes, if they have to be perfect, and what you could do is use the dies, the like those cutting dies that you use on your big shot, and you can just go up a circle, down a circle, in your die set. And here's a scrapbook paper that I saw that it has all kinds of crazy elements on it. It has like a notebook and traveling stuff. And what I did is I took it apart for ephemera. I like to take my scrapbook paper apart. I'm a big scrapbooker, but I've noticed that some of these papers like that are not really suitable for scrapbooking. So what I do is I take it apart and use it as ephemera for either for my scrapbooks or for my junk journaling. And I like this little piece that I didn't know what to do with it, and I'm gonna cover my little frame with this paper. But I don't know. The problem is that I liked it, but I don't think it matched the colors. So you guys will see the crazy that I am. I'm going to recover my frame because I didn't like it. So, you know, bear with me on my journey, my change of mind journey. And it's okay to change your mind. I mean, at first I used to feel like I was wasting paper or wasting materials. But then I'd be stuck with something I didn't like just because I didn't want to waste more paper or I didn't want to waste time. But I ended up not enjoying it and regretting that not changing things. And I've learned that I'd rather waste a little piece of paper. I mean, these were already scraps anyway, but I'm learning to be not wasteful, but wasteful. I don't know if you know what I mean. Um, to be bold in, I mean, the paper's gonna be sitting there. I've had this paper for probably like years and years, and it will probably sit there more years. But this way I get to see firsthand what it looks like, how it looks on my composition, and it came out good. I mean, it doesn't even look like it's a mismatch of paper pieces that I put there. But as you, I looked at it like on screen for like maybe 5 minutes, and then like the next day I was like, that's it, I'm changing it. So I found this other paper, and it has those ships on the water, and that's what I decided to do. I'm gonna use that ship to be on the base for my circle, and I'm going to use that same paper to cover the frame, because I feel like they have to match. The other paper was a little reddish, or I don't know, it had a different undertone. I mean, they were both like, that sepia beige, but it had a different undertone, and I felt like it didn't match. So I'm gonna recover the frame. It makes me feel better. I mean, it was a little wasteful, but um, at the end it had better results because it kind of went together rather than looking like two pieces that didn't belong together. I don't know. It's just me being crazy. I am a scatterbrain artist, and I do go back and forth and change and add, and I finish my artwork, then I don't finish it, and I go back and add more. And when I thought it was finished, then I'll go back and add some more. I'm crazy. Anyway, so I find this piece of acetate that came in a packaging. I think it was covering a plant. I have a plant thing, so I think it came in a little case. I'm not sure. But to prop up the cover for my little cover for the globe, I use these like marbles that it's not a half marble, it's like a half marble, half dome marble, and that's what I'm going to use to prop up my cover to the frame that I'm doing of the globe. And I sprayed it. I sprayed my frame with vintage distress paint because it looked too gold and too silver, and I just wanted it to be a little bit more rustic. So again, me going off frame, I I glued the globe and the foamies that I used on the bottom. It also served me to glue the atlas or the globe to the paper on the bottom. And here it is. That's the frame. So I'm using silicone. It's cold silicone, so it's the same as a hot glue gun, but in cold. Uh, um, I wouldn't know what it would be called other than cold silicone. And I'm using Tim Holtz trinkets to add one of those compass um, that he had like a couple years ago in his collection. And I could have glued it, but I wanted the little hand to move, or I don't know. I just felt like I had to, make a little hole and put it there. I think it would, if I would have just glued it on there, it could have like just popped out because the paper had no texture, no real strength to it. So I decided to put the little rivet through the piece of cardboard. And here's that same paper, and it had some stamps, and I was cutting it, but stamps are not ever straight. So I just ripped it off, and it seemed to look better that way. I used that. I used my little brush. I don't know if I showed it to you, but it's like a brush from the 99-cent store, which I so enjoy to use to put my distress on my paper. I feel like when I'm using the brush, it distresses the paper, but not only because of the paint, but because it like roughens up the paper because it's a rough paint, rough like a roughish brush, and it gives it that more rough. I don't know, my head. Anyway, so from going back to that same paper, I used the word travel, and to make it a little bigger because I cut it too small, I put another piece of paper, and I'm pretty much just using it to make it a little bigger and so that it holds better on the frame. That's it. It's not that it's gonna show up or anything. And I'm using foamy to make it stick right up to the frame. It was wiggling and dancing, and I didn't want it to fall off, but I still wanted to be able to put like little tickets or something on top of it. And I like this travelers little ephemera from Tim Holtz, but it didn't. I couldn't find a way or somewhere to put it on the paper. I played with the idea, but it didn't. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. If it looked somewhere good, or if I should have put it somewhere. And here I am putting it, the silicone on the back of the paper to attach it on the book. The book has a lot of texture on there. I don't know if you guys seen another previous video where I show you how to bind this book. It's the texture from the spider web of the Halloween decorations, and I just glued it on the book, so it has that texture on there that whatever I put on there is going to be hard for it to come off. And in this case, I didn't want to pierce through the book, so I am using my silicone instead of those little rivets on the paper. And here it is. This is how it looks. But I decided I wanted to use the pieces left over from that paper that I cut apart from the scrapbook paper. And what I'm doing here is just grabbing those pieces and arranging them on my first page. What you guys see on the red page is Jamaica or Jamaica drink. I put it outside. I put a roll of painter's paper, so like that paper that the painters used to cover up like the windows and stuff like that. I used a roll and I unrolled it on the grass, and I just threw, my husband made Jamaica, and I just used all the flowers that the Jamaica plant has, and I threw it on top of the paper, and I threw the water, and I let the water and the flowers sit wherever they wanted to sit, and those were the colors and textures that it gave me. And I feel bad for covering it up, but I wanted to use all the reminiscences of that. And this is a paper boat that my son made for me for my traveler's journal. And here it is. It's not, you know, that big of a deal, but it's all the pieces. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe. Liking and subscribing to my channel is a way of supporting me and artists like myself. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.